Oh, really? Good morning. Welcome back to the last day of our 3-day health seminar. This morning, we are talking about becoming a health detective. And it's about healing versus symptom cover-up. And I just want to tell you that most of the time, these classes that I've been teaching this weekend are shown alone and to various audiences. So some of the information may be repeated, but that never hurts us to hear something again. It helps us to remember it better. As always, I want to start with a word of prayer. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come and thank you for another day of life. We thank you for the night's rest. Thank you for your provision. Thank you how you continue to sustain us. We ask for your presence today. Be with us. Open our minds and hearts to the things that you have for us to learn. And Lord, as we go forward to the last days of the closing scenes of this great controversy, I pray that you will help us to walk in obedience to your health and moral laws. Give us the strength to do what we need so that we can best fulfill our God-given purpose. In Jesus' precious name, amen. I want to remind everyone that I am not a medical doctor, and the information I'm presenting is not medical advice. This is education only. And it is to help prepare you to be a better advocate for yourself when you work with your medical care provider. So, what is health? Just a reminder, health is the overall condition of an organism at a given time. It's soundness, it's freedom from disease. It's a state of optimal well-being. And of course, my favorite definition of disease. Dis-ease is the effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. In case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained. Which one of God's laws are we breaking? Are we not getting enough rest? Maybe not enough sunshine? Maybe not drinking enough water. So, in case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained. Unhealthful conditions should be changed. Wrong habits corrected. It means stop doing the things that are harmful to us. Then, nature is to be assisted in her efforts to expel impurities and to reestablish right conditions in the system. So, detoxing would be helping nature to expel impurities, and reestablishing right conditions would be whether we need to take a supplement or whether we need to get some more sunshine or drink more water, whatever it is that our body is lacking in order so it can heal. So I have mentioned before, when we have a symptom, we go to the doctor. I've been having these headaches. I've been having some nausea. You go to the doctor, they may run tests, and they'll give you a little pill, a prescription. The pill is not to resolve the underlying problem. It's to cover up the symptom. And most of the time, each month, you go back to the pharmacy and get a refill and come back home with that little brown bottle or blue bottle, some places have. When we go to the doctor, there's no questions on diet, your lifestyle, your stress levels, mold exposure, insects or bug bites, or EMF, electromagnetic exposures. there's no questions about anything like that. They just deal with symptoms. And just like the other day, I was mentioned how symptoms are like red flags. And if we don't look at the underlying cause, all that medicine is going to do is knock down the red flag, and then another flag pops up, and they'll give you another medication for that red flag. And it just keeps repeating until you get a life-threatening diagnosis. That's why it's so important to try to find the underlying cause. But unless you are working with someone, a natural health professional or a functional medicine doctor, they are not going to seek out the underlying cause. So there is nothing new under the sun. All disease begins in the gut. I love some of these old quotes. This is from Thomas Edison. The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will involve the patient in the proper use of food, fresh air, and exercise. When we talked about the difference between germ theory and terrain theory, Thomas Edison had it right. This is terrain theory. Was the government to prescribe to us our medicine and diet, our bodies would be in such keeping as our souls are now. All right, the government has no business in dealing with medicine or mandating certain medical procedures. The patient, treated on the fashionable theory, giving the medicine, sometimes gets well in spite of the medicine. I love this one. The person who takes medicine must recover twice, once from the disease and once from the medicine. I predict future happiness for Americans if they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of the people under the pretense of taking care of them. The good physician treats the disease, and the great physician treats the patient who has the disease. Okay, we have talked about the carbon life cycle and how things, just like in a compost pile, you have things breaking down by the work of microbes or microorganisms. And they are opportunistic creatures. They do not bother healthy cells. What happens is that our cells become damaged. This damage can come from the food we eat. It can come from not drinking enough water or being around a lot of electromagnetic frequency. It can come from not sleeping. It can come from the chemicals we ingest. But the microbes or bacteria, some people call them germs, they see the damaged cell. They see the toxins that we take in, the sugar and stuff, and they will change shapes and start eating the sick cell or eating the toxins that are in our cells. And what happens is that their waste product that they let go into your bloodstream is toxins. And that is what gives us the sign of colds and flus or viruses. It is because they are part of our immune system. These bacteria will change. It's like I gave the illustration the other day about the Transformer toys, that kids would change the shapes and make them into something else. For the older people, Pac-Man is a good illustration. we talked about leaky gut. And again, it's our cell wall lining, our intestines, is one cell wall thick, and they're supposed to fit tight. And so as the food travels down our colon, it's supposed to be broken down to smaller pieces till it's in minute portions. And then it's supposed to be able to slide through those tight junctions into the bloodstream, and the body will accept it as nutrients. But if we take things that create a leaky gut or hyperpermeability, it causes a gap. And so instead of breaking down to the smallest piece, the food particles are still pretty good size and they fit through there. So the body, instead of thinking, oh, nutrition, it's in a foreign shape because it's bigger than it's supposed to be before it goes into the bloodstream. So then it looks at it and go, oh, foreign invader. And then you have a state of inflammation. So most of our neurotransmitters for a healthy brain are made in the gut. But when we have leaky gut, instead of doing the work as to create the neurotransmitter, what happens is that it puts that job aside and it focuses on fighting these foreign invaders. So we're going to go through these signs pretty fast because we just went through this yesterday, okay? So we can have abdominal pain, bloating, gas. We can have like constipation or diarrhea. We can go back and forth from both. Indigestion, ulcers, joint pain, headaches, migraines. We can have skin issues like rashes, psoriasis, eczema. We can have weight issues. We can have mood or more hormone imbalances, weight fluctuations, things that cause fake food, fluoridated water, chemicals when we eat fake food-like products, when we slather things on our skin.
These chemicals.
Okay.
Because the chemicals in our food and water. Nutrient deficient.
I don't know why that's doing that. Okay.
So why
food allergens. People used to not have food allergies. But now food allergies are very, very common. It's because of the things that have been done to our food. The chemicals that have been put into our body.
What damages one part of the gut system.
There's a wonderful resource. It's called Allergies, a Natural Approach. And that is a documentary. And there's a book called Hidden Food Allergies. I highly recommend this Hidden Food Allergies because it will give information on testing, like
when there's
allergies versus intolerances. And it also helps in how to heal the gut.
Under the conditions of a leaky gut,
so stress and trauma. After I found out, I learned about the effect of food on the brain. I thought, well, there's really only one mental health issue, and that's trauma. Everything else dealt with a leaky gut and the body's inability to properly make the neurotransmitters. But then I learned that trauma and stress create leaky gut. So if a person has an issue up here, to start with, you got to work on the gut. And then the emotional aspects, the traumas and stuff need to be processed and worked through. But true healing starts
So when there's
with the leaky gut.
hyperpermeability.
Okay, drugs, alcohol, medications. Okay, so we've talked about germ theory. So germ theory is the belief that this one microbe is responsible for this illness. This microbe is responsible for this illness. And here's another microbe that's responsible for this illness. Okay? This has been disproved over and over and over again, especially by Antoine Béchamp. He was a French scientist. And he says our health depends upon how we eat, how much water we're drinking, how much sleep we're getting, how much exercise, and even how we think. Now, that sounds pretty much like New Start, doesn't it? Okay? So, from my point of view, if we truly believe in New Start, nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest, and trust, if we truly believe in that, we can't believe in the germ theory because they're totally opposite. I love this illustration because it has a dirty a dirty tank. You wouldn't just keep injecting the fish. What you would do is clean the tank, right? We need to clean our terrain, our bodies. Oh, wrong way. Okay. So, New Start is the foundation. And we have walls. So, I love the comparison. The Bible says that our body's the temple of the Lord, right? And there's a strong warning in Corinthians of not defiling the body, the temple, right? So we have the foundation, New Start. And then we have walls for this temple. One is detox. We are bombarded with tens of thousands of toxins every day in the air, in our water, in our food, and what we put on our bodies. I handed out some information on detoxing before. If you have not gotten that, let me know at the end and I'll make sure you get the sheets. One thing, I want to mention this because I don't want to forget it later. Sometimes we can come and sit in a health thing and we become aware, we start, oh man, there's so many things I need to do that I'm not doing. And it can become overwhelming. All these things I need to change. There's no way I can do it. What I do, when I work with something, I take baby steps. You start where we are. I usually, what's going on right now? What's your worst problem? Okay? And then it's like, if you're not drinking water, start with drinking water. And we talked about that yesterday. You don't want to be gulping all of this water because you can end up damaging your kidneys. But if you haven't been drinking water, you want to do a little bit at a time, like half a cup every 20, 30 minutes until you work up to half your body weight in ounces a day. You need water in order to detox. Your lymph fluids, your lymph system is your body's sewer system. So it needs to be moving. So you can get your fluids moving by walking or rebounding, jumping on one of those little mini trampolines. We talked about that the other day. But if you just start with something, and then like a week or two later, add something else, and then add something else. But if you start trying to make all these changes all at once, you're not going to be able to sustain it. It's not possible. I know even when I started changing my diet, this was some time ago, I was like, oh man, this is just too much. So on a Sunday, I started on a Sunday, and I removed one thing that Sunday. And then I'm trying to think whether it's each week. I think I did one thing a week. And it was not, within days, I saw improvement. And I realized that this truly was affecting me in a negative way. And so that motivated me. Okay, I can keep doing this. But when you remove something, you need to replace it with something healthy. Because other words, you start feeling deprived. And you start resenting. And I know some people who even get angry at God. I've got all these problems and I have to eat this way, and why didn't God make me different? Never mind what you chose to do beforehand. And I know for the first few months when I started making all these changes, my attitude was bad in a way, because it was like I had to do this. But then, I don't remember what it was, but I started thinking, no, I don't have to do this. I am choosing to do this because I want improved health. I was improving within the first few days of when I started those dietary changes. My pain dropped significantly. My mind cleared up. My energy increased. That was motivation, but I was still like, poor me. I can't eat like anyone else. But now it's like, you know what? I am thankful God gives me the strength to eat different, to choose to eat different, to be different, to practice different lifestyle choices. Because I'm not the one getting sick when others around me are. I'm not the one taking a lot of prescription medications. I'm not the one in pain all the time. I choose this way of life because I don't like the way I was in the past. I don't like hurting. I don't like not being able to walk without assistance. My word, my son had to help me to the bathroom. Do you know how humiliating that is? To have your son walk you to the bathroom? On a good day, I could fix breakfast. But the rest of the day, if I was going to eat, it was my son had to fix it. He would help me walk to the chair, the recliner in the living room, and I'd sit there most of the time. When I needed to go to the bathroom, he'd have to take me and help me walk. We always talked about, we'd have to get a place where even when he finished growing up and got married, he could still take care of me. I will never stop being thankful that my son does not have to sacrifice to take care of his mom. He's up in New Hampshire. doesn't have to sacrifice his life to make sure he's taking care of me. So detox, assess for allergens. Okay, I mentioned before, you can do this by blood test. You can do it by hair analysis, which is, I didn't have the blood test. I had needles. I had 8 panels of needles put in my back at the same time. And not one of them showed anything. And I was like, I know I have these allergies. And the allergy doctor, he explained to me the difference between intolerances and allergies. And then what I did is I did a food elimination diet. And you can find that online, examples of a food elimination diet. I did that, and I started finding my allergens or my sensitivities. And then later, this was like a couple of years later, I was doing a lot better, but I was still reacting to certain foods, and I couldn't figure it out. So that's when I found out about the hair analysis. And so I did the hair analysis, and it came back with 5 pages of different things that I was sensitive to. And they rate them on a scale from 1 to 4. And you had to avoid 3 and 4, but things on 1 and 2, 1 was nothing, but 2 you could eat on a rotation basis. So sometimes we can experience pain and not realize it's linked to a food we are eating. I'll give you an example. For instance, arthritis. I used to be affected so much with arthritis. I had degenerative arthritis in every vertebra of my spine. I was so much pain. You know what I did? I cut out nightshades. Potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, chilies, eggplant, tobacco. Tobacco's not a big thing, but those are nightshades. And my arthritis went away. Now I can eat small amounts of fresh tomato now, and I can eat small amounts of peppers. I can't do potatoes at all. But you know what? It's okay because I'm no longer debilitated by arthritis. And I know some people that, I'd suggest that, and they would try it. And they're like, oh, wow, I can't believe this works. It's actually very common. But people love certain foods. Now, signs of food sensitivities can be bloating or gassiness, runny nose, froggy cough, weight gain, fatigue, skin bumps, rash, and even mood disorders. I did not print it out, but I have a sheet, and it talks the different ways that you can check for food sensitivities. If you're interested, let me know, and I'll make sure I have your email, and I can send it to you. Okay, supplement for nutritional deficiencies. Some people are like, well, we should not have to supplement. We should get everything from our diet. And I agree, we should. Unless you grow all your own food and your soil is in excellent, excellent condition, you're not going to get the nutrients you need from just your diet. The food from the store is picked way before optimum harvest, where it has the most nutrition. It's picked early. Once is picked, it starts degrading. Now, those growers will spray stuff on the food, or they irradiate it to slow down the decomposition. We don't know how long that food that's been sitting in the store has been, how long it's been since it's been picked. And then we take it home and we wait longer, and then we cook it, which further lessens the nutritional value. So sometimes we need nutritional supplements to help. Emotional healing. We talked about that the other day. There is a test called ACE, the Adverse Childhood Experience. And sometimes we experience things in childhood that can affect us, and we don't realize it. There's a list of 10 questions, and more yeses, the higher risk you have of chronic health issues, even weight issues. So it's so important to process the emotional issues from the past and forgive. Forgiveness is essential for healing. Even if the person never asked for forgiveness, we can ask God to give us the strength to forgive. An attitude of gratitude. Okay, so the doctor of the future will be oneself. I am my own doctor. I mean, unless I need stitches or a broken bone set, I have no need to go to a doctor. So I want to talk about the actual process of becoming the health detective. And I am going to stop this for a minute, and I am going to show where is that file? There we go. Okay. This is a file I created a number of years ago. This is a food journal. And the main sheet, I'm fixing to move. The main sheet here, it tells the date, time, and you fill in what your meals are, your snacks, any medicine, supplement, right? How much sleep you got, what exercise, what symptoms, okay? Then your mood and energy. Then on another page, you have geometric effects, because solar does affect us. Storms, barometric pressures does affect us. I'm fixing to talk more about that in a moment. Full moon can affect us. Okay? So using something like this, or creating your own, or just taking a spiral notebook and writing your food down, and writing all your symptoms. And I mean everything. So everything that goes in your mouth, you record it. All your water, your medicine, juice, sodas, whatever you take, you record it. Did you sleep? Well, yeah, I slept about 3 hours, then I was up for 3 hours, and I slept another 4 hours. So you still got some good sleep, but you had a big gap in there. You need to record it. You know why? Because if you consistently, fall asleep pretty easy, but you wake up, usually 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe 3, and you can't get back to sleep, that is a sign of adrenal, maybe your cortisol spiking and things like that. So it would help you. Maybe you ate something and then suddenly you're just feeling really, really tired. I need to take a nap. You would write it down. Maybe you ate something and then you became very irritated. You write it down. If your energy is really good, you write it down. And this helps you pinpoint the underlying cause. There are all types of food logs that you can get online, okay? And you can create your own. I mean, I did, but I worked hard in creating this food journal. So the next thing I want to talk about is the full moon. Have you heard that the full moon sort of brings out the craziness in people? Mm-hmm. When I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I went online and I found these support groups for people with Lyme because I had no idea what I could do to get better. I just know that I couldn't continue the way I was. I needed help and I needed support. So I joined this group. And the week of the full moon, they would always say, "Full moon's coming up. Be sure to take care of yourself." And so I learned to recognize the pattern because I was journaling. I was journaling everything that went into my mouth. I would write about how I was feeling, my energy level, my pain levels, all of that. Well, I wanted to do a presentation one time about the full moon and its effect on health. So I was doing research. I could not find anything but all of this stuff that was, it's a wives' tale, it's a myth. And I thought, no, it is not. I've lived with it every month. I know it's real. So I kept digging. And I thought, let me research parasites in the full moon. Bingo. So during the week of the full moon, parasites break out of their biofilms. They dump their toxins and they reproduce, send out those little future parasites. And that causes us to feel yucky. It can cause all sorts of mood fluctuations. I did my internship at a residential treatment center for women and children. Every month at the full moon, somebody would get in trouble. Every month. Like clockwork. During the week of the full moon is an excellent time to work on detoxing parasites. Now, I personally, after you have taken the time to make sure all your elimination pathways are open, like I've addressed before, and you're detoxing, dandelion root tea and all of that, then when you work on the parasites, I would use whatever protocol you're going to use for at least 3 months. At least 3 months. I personally used Dr. Hulda Clark's protocol. And what she recommends is the black walnut tincture, clove, and wormwood. And it's very easy to find her chart on how many drops to take. And so I did that for 3 months. I experienced a lot of results. It was really, really good. I had very positive results. Now, I mean, I do things like I eat pumpkin seeds on a daily basis, things like that. Pumpkin seeds are really good in helping with detoxing parasites, but on the week of the full moon, I go back to that protocol and I do a lot of detoxing for parasites during the week of the full moon. So one thing, when you are detoxing for parasites, you need to work on biofilms. Make sure you address biofilms. A lot of times when we go to the doctor, maybe for a yeast infection, and we take medication that they give us, and it may help a little bit, but it doesn't take care of the problem completely. And the reason is because the biofilms have not been dealt with. So biofilms is this type of protein that bacteria and parasites will surround themselves with to protect from being noticed by the immune system. And so during the full moon, this last picture, this is what happens. They break open and they release the toxins and babies. So things that will help in addressing the biofilms: stevia, oregano oil, rosemary, and ginger. Those are cyst busters. Now, if you had a knowledgeable doctor that actually knew about biofilms, and there are prescriptions you can take that will break down the biofilms. I personally don't go that route, but that is an option if you found a doctor who knew about biofilms to break them down. A functional medicine doctor will probably know. But this is essential in order to get well, where it's not cycling. I compare biofilms to the Klingon cloaking device, if you ever watched Star Wars. The Klingon cloaking device would hide their spaceship thing. My ex-husband was a sci-fi junkie, so I ended up watching all those things. But when you address the biofilms, I had someone I was helping many years ago, had a persistent yeast infection, been to the doctor years, taking medication after medication after medication. And this person was talking to me, and I said, well, you're not addressing the biofilms. And so I recommended that this person use coconut oil. So coconut oil is antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial. And I said 30 minutes before you take your coconut oil, put oregano oil on your feet. And this person did that. 2 weeks, and the infection was gone. But he did it 3 times a day. And the way he took the coconut oil is he put it on toast and ate it like in butter. He just used it like butter and ate the coconut oil on toast. And this person already had a very clean diet, but they had a very persistent yeast infection, could not get rid of. And that did it. So we've talked about the full moon, and biofilms. Now, solar activity and 5G. Our sun is very active, and I believe that it has become more active lately because back in October of last year, there's this place, I don't remember where it is, it's on the other side, in those little tiny countries in the Europe area. They started shooting things into the direction of the sun, trying to just see what happens. And there has been an uptake in higher solar flares. Whether there's a link or not, I don't know. I don't care. All I know is that there's been an increase in higher solar flares. There is a term called solar flu. Solar flu. And it can cause flu-like symptoms. Solar and 5G, or radiation, will often cause flu-like symptoms in many people. I highly recommend the book by Dr. Mercola called EMF. It's EMF''D. Now, this book is a few years old. I believe it came out right before COVID. But he talks about the plans at that time to implement 5G. But he talks about the effect that EMFs have on our health. This is a summary of some of the things we addressed yesterday. What really makes me sad is that the majority of schools, unless the parents raise Cain, so to speak, have 5G towers on top of them. You know, it can cause neurological and neuropsychiatric effects, negative effects. It can attack our endocrine system. It can even affect our blood sugar levels. So these are, you can see 0.1, that's very, very low. And you can see how it can affect. Now, the U.S. allows up to 200 megahertz. Other countries, much lower standards. And the testing is not even, they test on a dummy the size of a football player. So solar flu, this is the website. You can look up the Charlotte King effect. And she has a couple of posts about the solar flu. And I personally, on my phone, I have an app. And it tells us the solar weather, tells me the solar weather. And it's really funny. Sometimes I can be sleeping so well, and I'll wake up and then can't get back to sleep. And so I'm like, okay. Then I'll get my phone and I'll turn it on, and there will have been a notification that there's a solar flare. And so I'm like, okay. Now, next day, I'll talk to my friend. I have an Adventist friend in Virginia who also experiences EMF sensitivity. And she'll say, did you wake up at such and such time? Now, she's an hour ahead. We will wake up at the same time. She'll wake up like at 1, and I'll wake up at midnight. But it's the same time because of time change differences. It's really weird. But the way I used to experience when there's a lot of solar activity, high solar activity, I would have extremely high flu symptoms, achy muscles, headache, just hardly a brain fog. Oh, I couldn't think. I don't experience those today. Sometimes I can get real sleepy. I'll be hit. Like, I'll get really, really sleepy out of the blue. And I'm like, oh, man. And I'll lay down and rest, and I'll check my phone later, and there had been a notification of a solar flare. So some people are very sensitive. Now, in this book, EMF, Dr. McCullough addresses that some people are more sensitive than others. And one thing he says is that people with Lyme disease tend to be more sensitive to the effects. Now, what I have come to believe is that the reason EMFs affect us is because of the microorganisms in us. Because everything operates on frequency. There have been cancer treatments where they have killed cancer cells by using frequency. Dr. Hulda Clark had created the zapper. Okay, the Rife machine, I mentioned Dr. Rife the other day. These are all on frequency. So I think the reason why people who experience EMF sensitivity is because of the microbes in them, and that level of frequency is causing them to react. We can't get rid of all the microbes. I mean, we'd be dead. Excuse me. And not all microbes are bad. We talked about that yesterday. Not all microbes are bad. We need them. They help us make the nutrients in our body. They convert the food to the nutrition we need. Just like the microbes in soil. Our plants do not have the ability to extract the nutrients from the dirt without the microbes there to break it down so they can access it. So anyways, any questions?
As far as causes of leaky gut, tomatoes and nightshades wouldn't necessarily bother everyone, right?
No, but it can't. I know one time I was listening to a documentary, and they said even if no one has a sensitivity to gluten, it still creates hyperpermeability for 4 hours. Okay? So when I was studying about this and different causes of leaky gut, not everyone has sensitivities to those. Okay, the nightshades, but it's like they cause a temporary hyperpermeability.
Second that. When we went up to visit my daughter during this kind of summerish time, they were harvesting stuff, and we had so much work to do. And we were eating some kind of potatoes and tomatoes every meal from the garden. It was so delicious. But all my arthritis symptoms went away. And those are nightshades. It was just because I wasn't eating the wheat. When I started eating the wheat again, arthritis came back.
Yeah.
That was my experience.
Is there any truth to the fact that the older wheats that haven't been tempered with are any less aggravating to this situation?
Yes, I'm glad you brought this up. Okay, I am very sensitive to gluten, but I can eat the ancient grains with no problem.
Inkhorn? Inkhorn?
I can have like organic corn,
Okay.
but if
No,
I
not corn, inkhorn wheat.
Oh, einkorn. Einkorn. Okay. Yes. There are like 3 types of ancient grains, and the documentary "What's with Wheat" explains the difference. And the ancient grains have 4% gluten. Our grains today have 44%. I will have people tell me, all you have to do is eat organic bread. No, I still react. Well, you just need sourdough. No, I still react. But I can eat the ancient grains with no problem. They are very time-consuming to cook with. So I don't use them very often. But see, that people say, well, in the past, well, things changed in the 50s with grains. But also, in the past, people would have bread, or they'd have a cake or pancakes, and that's about it. But now, all of these fake food-like products, they'll have a form of gluten in them, of wheat in them. And even medications and supplements will have gluten in them.
What do you call fake foods? You've alluded to that, but I've never heard you actually say what fake foods are.
Oh, you're processed, that come in a box.
Like TV dinners that you buy in the freezer.
Yes. I realize that most people here probably don't eat that.
What about Vegelinks?
Vegelinks?
Fake as can be.
Okay. Analog meats are great if you're transitioning from a meat-eating diet to a vegetarian, vegan diet. But I would not recommend using them often because of the chemicals, the salt and stuff in them. They're still not real. I mean, they're not real food. They're not real food. Now, you can make things yourself. I mean, there's lots of recipes online to make veggie dogs. I have a recipe for carrot dogs. It's addicting. They're so delicious. But you can make things yourself. You can make the veggie patties from real food. For myself, I think it's called Prager's. It's Dr. Prager's. They usually come, but they're made from real ingredients. Now, for special occasions, especially like if I'm at my sister's and they're having a cookout and everything, we'll get those. And she has these special sheets to put my stuff on so it doesn't touch any meat or anything like that. I thought that was so sweet of her to do that. But I may eat something like that maybe twice a year. But I also make my own veggie patties. I make things.
I have a question about nightshade and a stomach, a good stomach. So if a person has a good digestive system and they've got the good probiotics, will that make a difference in whether what you eat the nightshades or not? Will that be able to be processing better so you don't have all the symptoms that nightshade might produce?
If our digestive system is working well, yes, I mean, that would go. Some people are not sensitive to nightshades, okay?
So that's what I'm trying. Is there any correlation with the good gut
Right.
and nightshades, or is it just, it doesn't really matter, nightshades will affect elderly with arthritis?
Okay, so if there's a person who has, oops, sorry about that, who has arthritis, what I would do is to cut nightshades for 4 to 6 weeks.
You define arthritis in a very simple way that a simple mind might be able to understand, like, like
Arthritis
for
is
dummies.
joint inflammation.
What's that?
Arthritis is joint inflammation.
Joint. So it's
Joint.
Joint.
Joint. It could be, like your hands.
So, but it's not the bones, right? It's the cartilage around the bones.
It's where the joint, where they are joining, there's inflammation there. Okay? It can be in your knees, it can be in your feet, it can be in your spine. Okay? When I talk about degenerative arthritis, that I did, it showed up on the x-ray, and they were like, wow, you've got this all through your spine. Because I was having so much pain, and I could barely walk.
And what's the difference between rheumatoid arthritis? Again, for dummies, I'm saying simple terms that people could really make the difference between arthritis and rheumatoid arthritis.
Isn't rheumatoid arthritis autoimmune?
Yes, it is. Rheumatoid arthritis is autoimmune.
And it's very debilitating.
Yes. But, it goes back to, do we know the underlying cause? Okay? Because,
Okay, so we're looking for symptoms, okay? So you gave me an example for the arthritis, pain in the joint. I'm asking for symptoms for rheumatoid arthritis.
that would be more of, from my understanding, more of a whole body involvement. Where you're aching more all over. Sometimes your hands will become deformed, your fingers will become deformed because of the rheumatoid arthritis. Your body is attacking itself.
Okay.
That's autoimmune. That's what autoimmune diseases are. Your body attacks itself.
Is it still involved with the joints? So the rheumatoid, it still actually attacks the joints of your bones connection?
Yes. Now, regular arthritis, you might have arthritis in your hands or your feet, but not all over. Where rheumatoid arthritis is more of a whole body thing, and it can deform your bones.
Is it mostly affecting your bone structure, or it also affects your organs?
Joints. I could not say on that. I could not say. I have not. I only researched it a little bit when I've working with people. But as far as your other organs, I would say this: that when your body is attacking itself, it's not going to stop with one organ. Okay? It's going to continue.
And now this is a different question. I looked up Hulda Clark parasitic PDF file online. I found a link for it, but it says this is no longer available. Not available. Do you have her outline of how to do for cleansing, parasitic cleansing?
Dr. Clark's?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay, because online you can't, it's a dead file. The file cannot be found, so,
Okay, I'm glad you told me. Yes, I actually do,
okay.
and I will make sure.
For those that are interested, if you don't mind sharing, then I can send these via text or email.
Right. I can do that. Yeah, I have a sheet, and it has her information, but it also has like MSM, using MSM water and boron water and things like that on it, but I can send the whole document. Any other questions?
Could you talk some more on the parasite? Yesterday you were talking about the fact that if you want to start cleansing, you should take dandelion root
Right.
tea, right? About 3 to 4 times a day for 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks, depending upon how toxic you are. If you're really toxic, I would go 8 weeks.
8 weeks, okay. How do you know if you're very toxic?
If you have a lot of symptoms.
And what would be, so I'm saying this is just for dummy, for people that don't even know. How would you know, what would be your symptoms to know that, oh, I'm really infected with something?
Okay, if you have bowel issues,
Meaning constipation or diarrhea?
yes.
Okay.
If you have rashes, if you are bloated,
Okay.
if you pass a lot of gas, especially if the gas is stinky. You know, if you have a lot of body odor, if you go to the bathroom and your bowel movements stink so much that you need to spray, you're toxic. Our body odor should be just a little light musky. Our breath, we should not have bad breath. Our BMs, our bowel movements, should not stink. There should be a light smell, but they shouldn't be stink so bad that you feel like you're going to pass out and you have to spray something in there. Those are signs of toxicity. Yeah, the spray is toxic too.
Okay, so then, okay, that would be a sign that you're very toxic. And about at least 8 weeks of dandelion root tea.
3 to 4 times
Could
a
you
day.
also take a capsule if they, is there the same thing if you were to take the capsules?
I would say you could take capsules. I don't know. I mean, I've always used the tea, but I would assume the capsules would be just as effective
Okay.
in opening up your elimination pathways.
And when should you start on a full moon? Should you make it in such a way that you can finish your 8 weeks and then start the parasitic cleansing at the full moon? Or does it matter?
That's a good question. I would just get started, to just start. And yeah, I mean, the full moon comes around every month. But as far as the full moon, when I started the parasitic cleansing, I just started. After I did I think I did 6 weeks of the dandelion before I moved on to working with parasites and mold. And
Parasites and what?
mold,
Oh, mold, okay.
okay? And then I went 3 months. Every day I was taking these drops and I continued with my dandelion. My dandelion tea is something I use regularly. I don't do 3 to 4 times a day anymore, but I use it regularly, usually at least 4 times a week. Once a day, 4 times a week.
Another question, do you know any protocol for getting rid of radiation for people that have been exposed to more radiation than they should have?
Iodine
Iodine
and turmeric.
and turmeric.
And rosemary.
Rose. And do you combine them or you take them separate?
I take them separate. I use iodine on a daily basis.
How do you do it? You just put on your skin or?
I put it in my morning drink.
Okay, you drink it.
Okay? And I will tell you, if you start using iodine, you need to start slow, such as a couple of drops. And then you wait a week and you increase a couple of drops. So on until you are taking about 20 drops. There's a book called Iodine Crisis that has a lot of great information in it regarding how iodine used to be used, and because of the report of one person, now people are scared of overdosing on iodine.
Which iodine brand do you recommend?
I get Lugol's.
Lugol's?
That's what I use. Lugol's, Lugol's. It's not very expensive, but you can get capsules. I prefer the drops. Yes. Now, Barbara O'Neill, she recommends putting about the size of a quarter on your skin. And you can test, they say, the books I've read and the sites and stuff, that if you are, the more deficient you are in iodine, the faster it's absorbed. So when I first started doing that, it would be gone like that. But now when I do that, it's there for like 20 minutes because I'm not deficient anymore. But I will tell you what I was going to say. If you do too much too fast, it'll cause a Hertzing effect, a healing crisis. It will cause you to detox too fast. And I had been taking iodine for years, just like 3 or 4 drops a day. I read that iodine crisis book, and I thought, oh, well, I'm going to go ahead and jump up to the top. Oh my, I thought I was going to die. I had to do some detox things, like a detox bath, drinking a lot of lemon water and all of this. It was horrible. And I thought, why in the world did I do that? I should have known better. But I assumed, because I'd been taking 3 to 4 drops a day, that I could just jump up. And that's not so. Okay, so we are running out of time. This is a quote, I read it yesterday. You know, sometimes we are exposed to new information that goes against everything we've grown up believing. And we just want to turn away and say, oh, no, the majority can't be wrong. And so it makes it very hard to accept new truth. So I hope and pray that the things I've been sharing this weekend, that even if you don't agree, that it will motivate you to investigate. And don't try to do everything at once. Just baby steps, baby steps. Let's have a closing word of prayer and take a break, and then we're going to talk about some healthy meals. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much again for this opportunity to learn more about your healing ways. Lord, we pray that you will work with each of us, help us to move forward from here and take positive steps in improving our mental and physical wellness. And we know our spiritual health is so linked to our physical health, and we want to be in the best shapes physically so we can fulfill your purpose for us. In Jesus' name, amen.